the professionals recommend, I think that would be good. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Fury?
All right, thank you. I first wanted to mention, before I make my comments, I wanted to thank Kristen Umansky for her help. I've asked her a few questions about the tax assessments. She was extremely helpful. I think Vernon's lucky to have someone as talented as she is. She was very helpful. I did hear from John Fierro, who I've known for almost 40 years, say really nice things about her. And I just want to make a point that she's doing a great job for Vernon. The mayor, town council, and residents, my comments tonight focus on several important issues that face Vernon Township. The COVID policy, it is my opinion that the current mayor administration has done an outstanding job with bringing back in-person meetings while increasing the participation of the public. The resolution approved at last meeting is deeply disturbing in the middle of a surge in Omicron. In my opinion, these three council members who voted yes jeopardized the health and safety of all involved and should be held accountable for their irresponsible actions. Additionally, not reading emails denies the public of their constitutional First Amendment right to free speech and may constitute a violation of all residents' civil liberties. I may or may not continue to participate remotely in council meeting until this unsafe, unconstitutional policy is reversed. The GAC. The headlines were, and I quote, "I honestly do not see a benefit to this group." The headline in our newspaper for Council President Rizzuto. The GAC was rejected for one reason. It was Harry's Shortways Committee. It is shameful this group was dismissed, but it was obviously to the glee of many naysayers. This group volunteered many hours of their time to get grants, clear trails, start the farmers market, obtain sustainable New Jersey bronze status, assist with open space purchases, all to the betterment of Vernon. I want to thank every member of the GAC, as well as every volunteer who worked and helped the GAC for their dedication and hard work. The GAC is not worthless, and we will live on forever. The current township attorney, I want to publicly state again that I have 150% confidence in attorney Josh Zielinski and his firm, and I did not support last meeting's resolution to publicly announce any council opposition or no confidence vote towards his firm. The decision of the hiring of the attorney clearly and legally falls upon the purview of the current mayor, and the council is only here to advise and consent. I believe the search for a replacement attorney is a complete waste of taxpayers' money and has no merit and appears to be personal, not professional in nature. Mr. Zielinski has proved his value over the last several years, especially with the Mountain Creek bankruptcy, their work on the dirty dirt issues, and more recently with their impeccable work on the current SCUMA court appeal. This appears to be that new council members want to rehire John Urson as a township attorney. Mr. Urson was responsible for Resolution 13202 and other resolutions and orders that caused the financial crisis the MUA faces. I ask that the three members state in public why they are so eager to search for a different attorney and place their opinion on record and in public. Cannabis, you heard last meeting, a presentation on a very important issue for township. I promise I will listen intently to all sides of the issue in order to reach my final vote. I want to publicly state that how cannabis gets regulated in the township should not be decided by a 5-member council or land use board, and I will fight to have a local referendum on the ballot to allow the public to decide local cannabis laws and regulations. The local cannabis laws and regulations should be decided by the people and for the people, period. I'm asking that a resolution be drafted and considered by this council and placed on next year's election ballot as a local referendum. My vote to introduce the ordinance was to begin the debate on this very important issue and let the public be heard. The water and sewer dilemma. By now, most people are familiar with the issues surrounding the MUA. I spent almost 2 years on the MUA as chair during a very difficult time. I helped make a failing MUA stabilize rates and lower expenses considerably. I stated at the last meeting as chair that I will never vote for any unfair rate increase. As a member of the MUA, I still have that same position. At the last meeting, the 3 council members rejected my application to rejoin the MUA. Town council president told me, in quote, he did not consider and approve my appointment because I quit. After insulting me, he asked me to research financial ways to get the MUA out of debt. Thanks, but no thanks. Notwithstanding, I will stay committed to the process and I will work towards making the MUA a success. I once again tonight request that a joint council MUA meeting be held to address all of these issues, working hand in hand for the good of all of Vernon. I call upon all council members to take this issue seriously or suffer the consequences from any inaction. I urge that everyone research Resolution 13202, which led to the unfair service charges about $330,000 per year. I fully support the SCUMA lawsuit appeal and oppose any current actions towards canceling that process. I repeat, this current service contract is costing ratepayers nearly $330,000 a year and may lead to bankruptcy. Bankruptcy will move the burden to all taxpayers, whether any resident or business is on the sewer or water system or not. We want to hear publicly from our current council about their position about this most critical issue that faces Vernon Township. The ratepayers and taxpayers deserve to know. Their silence suggests to me they have no plan, or the plan is to run the MUA into the ground and raise our taxes and benefit certain business owners. Beware, Vernon, because your taxes are going up. In conclusion, it is my opinion Vernon is heading towards the days when we were looked at as the Hatfields versus the McCoys. But today we have a modern day version called the Shortways versus the Palladinis, where certain sides are only concerned with personal vendettas, settling scores, many axes to grind without any real vision. It is obvious that one side relentlessly and incessantly came to council meetings last year asking for Harry Shortway to resign, as well as myself, in order to convince voters to elect a new council, which they succeeded. Our town council president continues to come to our administration over and over with every complaint that comes from one person, Miss Palladini, because she supported his campaign for council, what some might say is a payback for her support. As Mayor Burrell said when I was appointed, I do not have an axe to grind, I do not have personal vendettas, and I have no scores to settle. Contrary to many who have asked me to resign over and over, I still expect these calls to resign, but I will not do what Council President Rizzuto calls me, be a quitter. I stay committed to this town and promise that I will make every effort and look past the ridiculous infighting and work with my fellow council members and mayor to do what is right for all Vernon residents. And I say tonight, I condemn all acts of racism in any form whatsoever. I will be transparent and I will never sacrifice my integrity for personal gain. I formally request that these comments be introduced into the meetings as a permanent record of my position as a council member. Thank you.
Mr. Shortway? Mr. Shortway?
Thank you. First and foremost, I've said in several years, in the last 6 years, that we will not tolerate racism and any negative prejudices, biases. And I'm sure President Rizzuto, you will back me up on that. Second of all, regarding the mayor, he is the chief executive of this township. We changed this government back in 2010, 2011. Under the Faulkner Act, he has the ability to participate in council member meetings, but he does not vote. He took an oath to uphold our constitutions and laws, and he will do that. Next, regarding Andrew Pittsger, I spoke to him a couple days ago about this. When this incident happened, shooting with a group of people at Camp Sussex, it was never proven that they fired the round and went into the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even on the council at that time. But seeing a problem, he proposed the ordinance. It's my understanding there's been 11 such incidents in the last 10 years around our township. Having said that, I've done extensive research, and I'm only going to give you the Reader Digest version. The proposed firearm discharge ordinance is not an assault on the right to keep and bear arms. It is about creating a safety standard for discharging firearms that protects the well-being and safety of fellow residents and their property. We are simply attempting to establish standards and procedures for the safe firing of ammunition for training and target practice. Adjacent properties and neighborhoods must be protected from a round's intended target direction and both vertical and horizontal ricochets by sufficiently containing the projectiles within the installation boundaries. The containment of a firearms performance envelope and impact footprint require the surface area to be protected by restrictions that impose buffer zones. This general policy ensures safety will be maximized. Every firearm related to the respective firearm requires an appropriate danger zone and impact structure depending on the projectile size and charge, equating to velocity and distance. Impact structures, the structure varies depending on the type of target shooting area. Natural terrain such as a mountain, cliff, or steep hill may be incorporated into impact structures provided the completed structure complies with the minimum design requirements. Surface danger zones, known as SDZs, represent minimum safety requirements. They are adequate only when employed with properly functioning safety equipment and devices, and when trained and competent personnel follow published firing procedures. An ordinance mandated these requirements would be realistically unenforceable. We can legislate SDZs and impact structure size and shape determined by the performance characteristics of the firearm and the ammunition and geographical locations. An ordinance would outline SDZs and impact structure designs in residential zones to make the probability of round escape from installation boundary likely to minimize the danger to the public and property. Now, I didn't make this up. It comes from the U.S. Department of Energy for Safety. It comes from the Army Corps of Engineers. It comes from the Marine Corps down at Camp Lejeune, and it comes from the NRA source book. And I'll put up on social media more of the laws that pertain, and the courts say we can do it. It is not an assault on the Second Amendment. Now, regarding the ordinance change for the dispensary, this too, I'll just be brief. The New Jersey courts have consistently ruled the purpose of NJSA 2C37 school zones and NJSA 35-7 public park zones is essentially the same: to protect those predominantly children in and around schools and public parks for exposure to the drug culture. The state legislature intended to create drug-free zones of safety where children could be, learn and play free potential infection of drugs. Such a stance is legitimate and warranted in the effort to prevent primary and secondary school students in the state from using drugs. That's coming from the courts. Many times they've said it in these cases, and I'm not just making it up. So the last thing I'd like to say is we are having a snowshoe. I think it's this weekend, if I'm correct, at Mountain Creek. And I know Natalie responded, you're going. I'm going to try to go. I'm under the weather. But it is a good time, and we've done it before. So thank you, and everybody have a good night.
Mr. Lynch.
First of all, I'd like to thank Kristen Umansky for staying online through this whole evening. And I have to tell you that I wrote about 4 questions, sent it to the mayor about a lot of questions I've been asked as far as the new reassessing in town, the tax reval that's going on. And I received the answers before I even got here tonight. I just happened to be good friends with George Conway.
Yeah, he's on too.
Yeah, George, are you there?
Yeah, and so is Melissa Rockwell, and so is John Piero.
I know Melissa. How are you, Melissa?
Good, thanks.
I have to say that I was pleasantly happy with the answers that George was giving me. And Kristen, you couldn't have a bigger cheerleader than George Conway. He really sang your praises to me, and I take George very seriously. And I was also informed by another council member, I should probably have a meeting with you, Kristen.
Yeah,
And
that'd be
go
great.
over some of the things that was spoke about. I could not attend that one that you had with the other council members on Zoom because my wife was in the hospital at that time.
Yeah,
Okay,
no worries.
and yeah, everything's good. As far as that goes, thank you very much. and I will be in touch with you if that's okay
Okay.
with the mayor for me to contact her to,
Absolutely.
Yep.
okay? Okay. Second of all, I would like to say that I come from a blended family. Okay, I am not standing here listening to people tell me that I have to condemn racism because I live in a blended family. I condemn racism just like everybody else in this room does. And I applaud you for standing up there to say it. But I am not going to police Facebook and come here and go after people who might say something stupid on Facebook because we would never get out of here. Let's face it, we'd be here till 5 o'clock next Tuesday. So please forgive me. I condemn racism at every level. And I know that the rest of the council does too. You don't need a resolution for that either. You just need to do the right thing.
I mean, thankfully, we have one, so we don't need a resolution.
Okay. Second of all, I find it rich that member Fury keeps stating what we should do. He wants to hear from us and he wants to hear our opinions on everything. And yet when we were going for this pump track, there were so many questions and so many things that were not taken care of, that to ask us questions on stuff that hasn't even happened yet while trying to get our arms wrapped around this pump track and everything around it, I find that amusing. If in fact we are going to be presented with things in the future as far as the sewer service agreement and or anything else like that, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you, there is a lot of work to be done, and it's just not the pump track. We have roads that have to be paved in town. We have things that need to be fixed. We are here to make sure that the tax dollars from Vernon taxpayers are spent properly. And if the questions are uncomfortable, that is the way it is. Other than that, I want everybody to have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. I could go on and answer a number of questions that have been posed about why a decision was made or wasn't made. I only need to go back to 2016 when Mr. Lynch introduced a resolution for a sewer service study, and it was passed by the council at that time. And the following, I believe it was in November, following January or February, the portions of that resolution were suspended, and there was no study done until such time as myself and the late Mr. Wetzel, great friend and a great council member, and Mrs. Ohms were able to reverse the council's position on this. Still haven't heard what's become of this sewer service study, any of its recommendations, what's happened to it. So, you know, there are questions that still need to be answered on many fronts. It's getting late into the night. I don't want to have another meeting like we had during our last meeting. And one of the things that I want to do that I'm very happy about is I do have the opportunity to make an appointment this evening of our board, our council vice president, Mrs. Bucieri, to represent the council as a liaison to the Board of Education.
Thanks.
So, having served on the board myself and spoken with Mrs. Bucieri, I share her concerns and her interests and her war stories, and I'm sure she'll be a great help to conveying some thoughts and bringing back some messages. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing some of my old friends.
Thank you. And thank you this evening for those who have managed to sit through this. I appreciate your perseverance and your stamina. And I now ask for a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
Have a good evening, Mayor.